All right, it's hole number 10. We've made the turn and we've visited the clubhouse. It is time to get started on the back nine of the Ryder Cup here at Pars and Pours. Welcome back to Pars and Pours. My name's Jim, and this is the Golf-Centric Whiskey channel where we are going over the Ryder Cup, which is a competition of ryes that I've gathered in the last year. There's no rhyme or reason. I had a generator pick who's going to go against who, and this is just how they're ending up. So we saw from hole 1 to hole 9 there was some what people would call upsets, and then there was some straight down the middle. We understand what's going on. Now keep in mind, none of these are losers per se, because I've picked them up not as a whim, but I've also tasted them all before. Now we're going to be talking about the Ryder Cup, we're going to be talking about Bethpage Black, and we're going to be talking about the whiskey. So while we're here, the very first one, off of hole 10, this is the first time it's been seen, Whiskey Thief Distilling. This one I thieved myself. It is a 95.5 rye, 6 years, barreled or thieved in August of last year, almost to the day. It is a 124 proof, uncut, unfiltered, and we'll talk a little bit more about Whiskey Thief here in a minute. The other one is a relatively new to the scene as far as popularity goes, and this is Starlight. Starlight is out of Indiana, and they started at the Huber winery, and now it's called the Starlight Distillery. Single barrel Huber's Old Rickhouse Indiana Straight Rye at 110 proof, aged 4.5 years. And it doesn't say what the mash bill is. However, the stuff that I've got one here in a box somewhere back here, it is a 96.4 rye. So I'm going to go on the idea that this is pretty close to the same idea. So they're going to be very high rye, low malted barley type setups. Okay, I gave the Whiskey Thief a pretty healthy pour, so we might start with that one with the first drink of the day. Going to give them a little swirl. They've both been opened at least once or twice now. All right, so to talk about this, number one, the Ryder Cup. I normally give you little factoids of the Ryder Cup, right? And I told you there was 1927 by Sam Ryder. We know that. However, did you know that the U.S. won the very first Ryder Cup because it was in Worcester Country Club in Massachusetts? And that was that one. So to kind of keep going with that, in 1929, Great Britain, because it hadn't expanded to the Europe part of it yet, won their first one because they were over in Leeds in Moortown Golf Club. And so at that point it was an even Steven. So we'll talk more about that one. Now, hole number 10. Hole number 10 is a handicap number 16. So it's the, third easiest hole in the golf course. It's a par 4, 386 yards. Now, after the first 9, there was a whole bunch of trouble, tribulations, and a lot of tight golf course. So if you're not coming out morally or mentally just jabbed in the mouth with all the sand and the tightness to contend with, this one gives you a little bit of an easier area. It's just benders to the left just ever so slightly, and there is sand on both sides, but I don't think it comes in play unless you really hit something very errant. Now, and very characteristic of Bethpage is that almost every single green is guarded by sand, and this is no different. It is guarded by sand. It looks like it's got claws going around it, just waiting to gobble up golf balls. So your first shot should be at 386. If you can control your shot, you could be just hitting a nice little easy sand wedge. This is going to be driver wedge, and should be a very gettable hole that, could be a very good birdie opportunity depending on your short game. Okay, so we got through that one. Whiskey Thief and Starlight. Been to both of these places. Let's turn that around so you can see it. Whiskey Thief is just outside Frankfurt, and now they have a tasting room in they've got a tasting room in Louisville, but the place that you really want to go is the actual premises itself. It is a farm, and when you get there, there's this little bit of an outhouse that it has a lot of merchandise and whatnot, And in order to drive there, you have to drive literally through the farm, through rows of corn before you show up and see the place where they actually distill and then where they store their product. It's pretty neat. Very rural to be sure. It's literally 2 blocks as the crow flies, but it's about half a mile as you got to drive to get around it. The idea of Whiskey Thief is that they have a series of barrels set up there where you can thieve out your own product out of these barrels and taste them yourself. And if you decide that you like one of those barrels, you just keep thieving it until you fill up a bottle, which is what I did. They had some of the bourbons that were there, and I really wasn't too enthusiastic about those, but this is the actual bottle that got me interested in 95.5 Ryes to say, well, that's definitely different than what I thought it was going to be. So that's something to say. Now at Starlight, those folks are some of the friendliest folks you ever want to meet. We went on the tour where we bottled our own, and the bottled bourbon, which again is up here, was fantastic. Okay, it was just really, really good. But as part of the tour, you get to go into the rick house, and it's ever evolving. They have honey barrels in there, all kinds of finished stuff going on, and you have the opportunity to taste just about anything that you doggone well want to. And so you get that. Now, I will say some of their stuff, most of their stuff is younger. However, they just released a 10-year-old, of which I've got back here somewhere, and it's pretty nice. So as this place starts gaining a little bit of age, this could be quite the powerhouse out of Indiana. Just about an hour and some change south of Indianapolis. Definitely worth a shot to go visit. It's very, very nice. The place is very, very laid back. You can get your stuff, you can get a bite to eat, and then you can go outside and sit under pergolas, some overhangs, under some trees, and listen to just performers just wanting to sing their songs, right? It's very, very well laid back. Across the parking lot is a farmer's market. We purchased some corn out of there, which was absolutely out of this world, and so something to really go see. So both of them have interesting starts in super history. All right, let's get the palate acclimated. For the nose, we get a lot of caramel. In typical 95.5 Ryes, I get a lot of sweetness on these things. They just come off to me that way. Caramel vanilla, that's all day long in this thing. I know that's easy to say, but that, you know, when you're talking bourbon, fine. But normally in the rye, you would expect this rye spice like a pepper or something along that lines. I'm just not picking that up. Yeah, I get, it's just all day. It's the vanillas, the caramels, maybe a butterscotch, and just a hint of the grain. A very, very forward, you know, very standard nose. It's very nice. Now this one comes off more of a bourbon nose. You get more of the, I like to call it like a brown sugary kind of note with the alcohol on it. And it's this one note. One day I'm going to find out what this note is. And there's the rye. Now this one does have the rye grain in it. And it's just sitting back there. It's a very, I'll call it a muted nose. It almost comes off, and it's going to sound awful, and it's the minty part of it. It's like Vicks Vapor Rub. Vicks Vapor Rub mixed with a little bit of a sweet brown note. I don't know if that's off-putting or not, that mint. First time coming across mint, where this one's a little bit sugary. All right, so we've got that one. All right, so let's get into tasting. And the very first thing, now this one is very even across the palate. When you drink it, you don't get blasted. It's a nice even front and middle of the palate. You do get the rye like everybody's expecting, right? The rye, the peppery, and then mix it in with that vanilla mix it in with the vanilla flavoring, so you get that kind of rye hit, only to be mellowed out with the vanilla, and it gets to the back, and I would call it a light to medium finish. Very well done. Yeah, I like this one a lot. That one is a good. That was when you nose it, you wouldn't think you were going to get that, but what I would call that is a traditional, what people would expect a rye to taste like. On to Starlight. Yeah, it's that mint. That's the mint and some mint and a little bit of vanilla. Now this one you get, again, the rye grain comes right out, and it rolls right past the front and gets right into the middle and goes to the back. And the pepper, the rye, the pepper, it's not hot. It's just, those are the kind of palate taste. You know, when you taste pepper and it doesn't, it's not burny. It just tastes like pepper, and it's got that little extra ting in it, and that's what you're getting. The mint is nowhere to be found, and it finishes off very, very solid in a smoother, I won't say caramel-like, but it's a smoother. It's just like all the flavors are coalescing into the spot and then just fading away. That was a pretty good one too. So now this, in the past, what we've been seeing is it's just been a battle of sugars and does it nose appropriately. In this particular one, this is traditional ryes, right? So one more. See, again, you get right in the beginning, you're hit with the caramel-like, the sweetness of it. Then you get the rye spice, almost a peppery kind of feel, and then it comes into the back. Very, very well done. Let's do one more. Yep, and you get again the rye, and it just, all it is rye at this point. There's no extra to it. You get the rye, the pepper, and that's what it is all the way to the back. Okay. So in this particular instance, I'm going to give the nose and the palate to Whiskey Thief because it delivers on several levels, right? We talked about the different levels that are the different nosing experiences that you got with it, plus you experience that on your palate. Now, on this one is a very good traditional rye. I mean, it is rye spice with that little bit of mint. It is everything that you want it to be. It is straightforward. There is nothing extra or nothing surprising about it. Okay, nothing surprising about it. Now the other one, I'm going to give the uniqueness. I'm going to split point this one, and that's what we can do because on the Ryder Cup they have the 3 different sectors where they have best ball, match play, and then they have one-on-ones. So what we have here is the Whiskey Thief was new. They're the ones that really kind of started this whole thieve out your product, thieve out your barrels, put it in your Glen, and do the tasting, and gave you this kind of hands-on experience. Where the Starlight, a recent, we won't say recent because they've been around for 80 years, but these guys have this whole farm activity going on, the farmers market going on, and they're really just surging out into the bourbon whiskey community just in leaps and bounds. Right now, probably their #1 seller is their blackberry whiskey, which my wife just loves that stuff. So it's a good rye. If you're looking for a traditional rye, this is where it's going to go. However, the Whiskey Thief just had a few extra layers, and the nose and the palate came through just a little bit more than the Starlight did. So here we go. Whiskey Thief moves on to another one. Hopefully you like what you're seeing. If you have any recommendations, please put them down in the show notes. Please like and subscribe, and keep on. We're only, what, 8 holes away from being done before the Ryder Cup, our Ryder Cup ends and their Ryder Cup starts. And as always, guys, we'd like for you to save some of those pars, but share all those pours.